there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we have from Sombr, I Barely Know Her. So one of my more anticipated new acts of 2025, and for me a rare bright spot on the Hot 100, has been New York City's Sombr, who in the early 2020s has built traction across TikTok and then seen multiple viral smashes this year, all of which I've kinda liked. Not without real flaws, all the singles so far reflect a myopic melodrama about his first real heartbreak that seems to walk the tightrope of sincere to the point of immature whinging, and a certain preening calculation that'll have him sounding brooding and heartbroken enough for the right target audience to swoon. So the test for me will be if it actually could hold over an entire, partially self-produced album, even though there was a stacked cast of industry veterans around him, like Tony Berg, Sean Everett, Rich Costey, and more. Now this has prompted a lot of industry plant accusations. I'll get back to those when anyone behind said accusations can define the difference between industry plants and well-backed artist development, or if he's just someone your algorithm hasn't served you yet. And so for this, well, let me put it like this. On production palette alone, predominantly the high contrast and saturated mixes that sprawl across revving guitars, gentle keys, supple grooves, and vocals sound like late 90s Robbie Williams pressed through an early 2010s lo-fi indie fuzz borrowed from The Neighborhood and their ilk, with a thick cushion of pillowy, retro 60s overdubs. It's an intriguing blur of sonic ideas that sounds both expensive, but also kind of perfect for the scrappy melodrama and the glam that Sombr is crafting, made all the better by actually having the space to breathe in contrast with a lot of music built for short-form TikToks. If he doesn't have a future as a pop star, he absolutely does as a producer. And that leads to some impressively sticky melodic hooks and flourishes beyond the singles that have all worked like gangbusters, like the turn of the millennium Britpop swell of Back to Friends, or the swaggering bass line and slick guitar rollick of Undressed, and especially that grinding early 80s disco punch of 12 to 12. Also got the smoky indie rumble of the groove driving Come Closer with a stellar overdubbed hook, the fat bass around the yelping croon of I Wish I Knew How to Quit You, with some of those great little piano embellishments, and then the rattling acoustics with just enough touches of cello on Canal Street, with one of many ambitious and in my opinion legit terrific melodic change-ups on the bridge. There's a lot of great bridges on this album, and Under the Mat riding the glittery pianos with harmonies that are ripped straight from the Beach Boys. The only tune that kind of fell flat for me was the attempt at a throwback blues holler on Dime, but I kind of respected the attempt. There's definitely a bit of Billy Joel and some of his melodic prowess and influences, even if the songwriting isn't close to that yet. And boy, you need the production and melodies, because drilling into the content, this album is single-minded to damn near a fault. Sombr wrote 10 songs in a state post-breakup of whinging and angst, where if I'm willing to give Olivia Rodrigo the benefit of the doubt in terms of youthful melodrama with a somewhat unreliable narrator and wider framing, Sombr will mostly get that too. One thing that becomes obvious is just how much he overcommitted and she wasn't nearly as interested, not even considering it a full relationship. So while he flails at the accusation that nobody knows her quite like him, and he tries to move on and largely fails, mostly because he's convinced that there's a chance he can actually win her back, well, he'll never admit the self-centered hubris, but it's absolutely there, and indicative of the young, borderline teenage passion that understands all of this is self-destructive, but also doesn't really care. You're gonna hear Sombr's pain. It's a self-serving wallow, and I understand everyone who might find that insufferable, believe me. But there is detail that I really like here. Every subtle prod that acknowledges his own culpability and failure where he thought it was way more than it was. Multiple mentions of his mother to highlight how disapproval and how immature he really is. And by the final song, Under the Mat, exposing the more mundane reality that it wasn't some blow-up, but moving in together in a small Brooklyn apartment too soon, and it all fizzled out in his late teens. And he's the one too spineless to really attempt a reconciliation, because deep down, he knows they broke up for the right reasons. In that, what this debut reminds me of a little is the very early pop cuts from The Cure, a promising lush soundscape with remarkably solid grooves, a willingness to let the production breathe, a solid preening frontman awash in melodramatic angst, but a lot of vocal flair, not exactly refined or mature as of yet, where the influences feel a little bit too obvious, but real seeds of promise with a couple high-quality standouts. And yeah, this is gonna get a lot of dismissive abuse because, well, Sombr's not exactly overflowing with dignity, and I already know every single teenage girl who wants something a little bit edgier but still pop accessible is gonna fall over this project, prompt the usual backlash from the chronically insecure. But you know what, fuck it. I'm willing to call this legit great, one of the strongest mainstream-ready pop debuts I've heard in 2025, with a foundational polish and promise to charge forward once this heartbreak has been thoroughly processed, because really, we need a little bit more subject matter. If I would have another critique of the writing, it's a little basic. And now in the inevitable stan war between Sombr and Benson Boone, I know which floppy-haired kid I'm probably going to support because, I'd argue, it is worth the proper chance. I say it. Check it out. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, subscribe. Yeah, if you've been following me on Billboard Breakdown, you've known I've liked this guy throughout the course of this year. I'll freely admit that this was a better album than I was expecting. Again, a little bit single-minded, but we don't hold that against plenty of other genres. And I do think there's enough flair in the melodies and presentation that will actually carry this through a lot. And especially as I think the potential is absolutely there, especially with so much of this being self-produced and being backed by good people. That's gonna matter. And no, I wouldn't say industry plant for any of this. I'd just say well-crafted artist development. I know some labels are allergic to that, but this is how it actually can work and turn out well. But hey, leave your comments down there below. Anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if y'all want to get involved in getting projects on my schedule, arguing with me on my Discord, or hell, just supporting the channel, link to my Patreon is right over there. And YouTube memberships. Once again, don't feel obligated, tough times, but the option's available. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.